Okay, let's head out. Rare thing I usually don't do, which is to actually take a proper trail. But I want to give this one a little walk for a reason. I'm at Amboy Crater. There's a crater right over there. It's a 80,000-year-old volcano. Last eruption was about 10,000 years ago, although it smoked up about 100 years ago. Scared a lot of the people that were miners and desert dwellers out here that were living in some of the nearby towns of Amboy, Siberia, and Baghdad. But let's take a little walk. Not far. Let's do our good life meditation. I'm probably going to go quickly because the heat's bad. It's at the deadly level, and it's right at the time when it starts to kick into the really scary stuff. So I gotta be good. So let's do it quickly. So the good life meditation is my daily effort at reminding myself of my values, my objectives, and my principles, so that I can make sure I'm keeping them, maintaining them well, and living as best I can. First of these is my affirmation of human and civil rights. I just like to remember that, as they say, all men and women are created equal, and children, and we all have inalienable rights. Boy, it sounds like I'm quoting right from the Bill of Rights. But the Bill of Rights really captured it well. Inalienable rights that must be afforded them, and we'll all do better off if we remember to allow one another these. Grant each other these. Well, allow and grant isn't quite the word, but respect this of each other. Let's get on to the 5 objectives. There were 6, but I melded the last 2 into one. These are the objective of 1 is the good and effective use of time, just to live well and make good use of these precious moments that I have. You know, being that I believe that I am mortal, not in any way immortal. I don't have anything to look forward to after this. Just the quiet silence of absolute dissolution. Isn't this great? This volcano rocks. So I got to make good use of this time while I got it. Second objective is the objective of the development and maintenance of good, sound life principles. That's what I do in reciting these 5 objectives and 20 principles. Trying to keep them, maintain them well, add to them, remove from them if necessary, and change. 3, the cultivation of good emotional reactions. To react well to the world around me. To not fly off the handle or be propelled along by my emotions, but instead to be informed by my emotions, and use them as instruments of navigation through life. Sure, I'll falter once in a while, lose my temper, but that's to be expected. It's easy to get screwed up out here. See how you can see the trail here, but once you get a little bit hot, look how I'm already glistening. Once you get a little bit hot, you can easily get disoriented. 4, the performance of good actions, just doing good things through the course of the day, being a good human being, good to my fellows and one another and the earth itself. Oh, wow, and hug a tree. Next is number 5, which is used to be the combination of, used to be 5 and 6, but now it's just 5, which is the recognition of true limits and the recognition of true opportunity. Recognition of true limits and opportunity. I really want to keep track of what my limits are. For example, I better not go very far on this hike, because this is a death hike if I'm not careful. And so my limits are probably about another, less than a quarter of a mile, and I'm turning back. I better not get off the trail or I could get lost. Opportunity. This is an opportunity to get in touch with some emotions inside. Something happened here 2 weeks ago that has been on my mind. And so taking this little walk on this trail is somewhat morbid, yet also informative experience. Those are my 5 objectives. Let's get on to my 20 principles. Can you hear the train? Oh, there, you can see it. That's the old Transcontinental Railroad back there. That's the Bristol Mountains in the distance. Woo! I'm feeling the heat now. Yeah, no. True limits and opportunity. Not too far out here. 20 principles. The first of these is the principle of war. Wake each morning ready to go to war with everything that I hold dear. I do not want to hold on to principles that suck. 2, the principle, oh man, I'm really feeling it. Just a little further, and I'm turning back. 2, is going to be 111 today. 2, the principle of reason, and I've got no place to hide when I get back. Just a little shade under a balcony, under a picnic, over a picnic table. 2, the principle of reason and the sub-principles of honesty and objectivity. Reason is my instrument of discerning what is true, and I use an honest perspective and an objective measure to keep me on track. Let's climb up on here. Probably shouldn't get off the trail, but just a little bit. 3, the principle of the homunculus, the little man who lives inside of my head. Not really, but I like to imagine it's my substitute for what a soul might be. I don't think we have a soul. There's no reason to think so. So I call it the little homunculus, the little guy that pulls the levers. I like to remind myself that he's like a flame or a song. He'll go out when I go out. There'll be nothing left. I'm looking for little green bits of crystal that came up from the Earth's mantle. Don't see any. Rode up with the lava. Man. Next is after the homunculus comes what is after the homunculus? I'm kind of losing my mind. Stop there for a second. After the homunculus comes oh yeah, the home of good and evil. There's a cactus right here. Wow, and a cactus right there too. Ow, I could hit that. The home of good and evil. Good and evil reside in my head with the homunculus. Their opinions and perspectives. They don't float around out here. There's no good or evil out here among the rocks. And number 5 is the purpose. I imagine 2 purposes in my life. One is the purpose of a biological purpose, which is to get my genes into the next generation, have my daughter and get her into carry on my genes. Next is after that I'm done. I can die and get the heck out of the way. Stay around for be a grandparent, help out a little bit, but as soon as it's all really nicely biology is coordinated so nicely, just about the time I'm done, die. It's very interesting. So if that's it, I've done that, so I have to think, what else do I want to do? Because then I've decided virtue. I want to be a virtuous man, so I try to live a virtuous life. Virtue being defined as the wholesale improvement of well-being for everything. It sounds so hippie, but it's real. I mean, doing things that make the world a better place for my meager footprint upon the planet. Next is 6, the atomic principle. The atomic principle, everything is made of bits and pieces, all these little rocks and sand and all that stuff, it's just me too. And very soon, just like this sand that was once the mountains behind me, so too I will dissolve away into my component parts. Next is nature. Everything in the universe has some particular nature. To heck with it. Let's go all in. Come on, get me. I can see the area that I have to be in, so I'm cool. Nature. Everything has some particular nature, and it's worthwhile to recognize what that is. Okay, collect my thoughts. Get back straight, Kurt. For example, when I'm at work, I try to remind myself of what the nature of my coworkers are, each of their individual natures, plus the nature of the group. I also like to remind myself of the nature of the organization where I work, also the nature of my role. And this helps me to, for example, keep in mind about that when I'm dealing with certain people, I have to accommodate their personalities in some ways. It's just the way they are. That some processes have to be followed and abided. It's the nature of our business. My job as a project manager, there's a nature to that job where I don't do the work so much as I manage the work. I make sure that the whole project moves along with all the various components and pieces. And that kind of helps me to avoid frustration and keep practical. After the principle of nature comes the principle of maturity. Reminding ourselves of that maturity consists of wisdom and fortitude. Wisdom is the thing you accumulate over the course of your life, and fortitude is the persistence that you have in executing accordingly. Next up comes the social principle. Human beings are social animals. We need one another to survive, and our best ends are social ends. That's just a rote thing I say. What I'm trying to remind myself is that I can't live like this. I can't live disconnected from my fellows and from others. I mean, I can, but it's not a very good living. I wind up going someplace where no one else can really relate, because it's kind of a dead end, that route. As much as I like it, I'm like others. I like being part of with others. I like having my loved ones and my wife and my daughter, and my brother and my mom and my family and my little dog. And it's good to do that, to stay connected. Otherwise, I'd come so far out here that I'd never get back. What good is that if writing poetry in the wilderness? Next is the Feast of Offal. Feast of Offal is all the waste and byproduct that comes out of our poor living, our unprincipled living, our undisciplined living. When we just live day to day without thinking about our objectives and pursuing those objectives and understanding what our guiding principles are, and then living according to those principles, then we just kind of float aimlessly like a guy in an inner tube in the ocean. You're just kind of bobbing around. The waves are tossing you around, But if you have a direction and you have some way to stabilize, and you can kind of be making your way along, waves are coming. It's a much better way to live. Otherwise, if you're not doing that, if you're just letting it get you, then you're tossing this way. Oh, well, yeah. Wasn't a cactus. And tossing that way, and getting mad and yelling at people, and temper and frustration, and some people really go out of their way. I guess it was a little cactus. If it seems like I'm a little mad in this video, it's because of the heat. I'm not flipping off. Okay, that's 10. Second 10. AKA the last 10. Temperance. Temperance, the principle of temperance, a real important one. There are 3 pieces to that. Suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Temperance is our ability to control our consumption of anything. Food, wine, drink, play, work, leisure, whatever it is. Just, taking everything in moderation so we live a more compact, controlled life. It feels good now. I think, whew, I'm really enjoying this now. Suffering is what happens when you deny yourself what you want. So that's a consequence of temperance. Simplicity is a way of, inculcating, if that's the right word, simplicity into your life. Temperance into your life by virtue of, living, consuming little. Simple life. And then you don't suffer so much because it's a part of your life. Apathy is our ability to not worry about the things that are outside of our control. Well, and it belongs to temperance because we're not consuming the frustration that, a little spider, that rises out of things that are outside of our control. Like, a flat tire. If I get a flat tire riding back on the bike, I'm going to apply apathy to that. I got a flat tire. It's not worth getting upset about. It's worth doing something about. If I get fired from my job, I get fired from my job. I don't have the choice to not make that happen. I have the ability to hopefully protect myself from that in some ways, but if it happens, it happens. And I'll apply apathy to the part of me that would get upset and otherwise work towards improvement. So apathy doesn't mean you're not doing something. It just means you're not consuming, and you're not consuming the part that would get you so upset. Next is the What is the next one? Heat's getting to me now. I gotta go quick. The next one is best seat in the house. Right here, right now. To not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but be okay with just where I am. Next is the risk of avoiding risk. Early in life, we come upon risks that seem so obvious, not getting enough or sufficient education, not finding someone to spend our life with, not saving for our old age. And so we do all of these things, oftentimes compromising other things that may interest us in this one life that we've got, and we find ourselves later in life having suffered the risk of having lost out on the opportunity to enjoy, to become, and then enjoy being the person that we might otherwise be in this one life that we've got. So by going after the surface level risk, we've encountered the deeper risk. Now, it's a rare person that can cover themselves on both counts. I've been an utter failure. I think I've been pretty good on protecting myself from the deeper risks, but at the expense of the surface ones. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a career, so to speak. I mean, I'm lucky I have what I've got. I am lucky I've got a great wife and a family, so I did luck out on that one. That was hard work too. The next is sin and damnation. Sin is real. It's, in my worldview, it's not a sin against some omnipotent deity's mandates and prohibitions. Sin is when we are not true to ourselves or the world. And there are 5 components of that. Falsity, not being true. Credulity, an over-eagerness or willingness to agree or believe. Wow, I can see it. I'm kind of, maybe I'm not, but I feel it. It's like my orientation is a little off, but I can see over there. There's the parking lot. So I'm cool. Don't worry. This is probably more just a little panic, mild panic in my mind, but I'm cool. So falsity, credulity, faith. Faith is a sin because faith is belief in spite of evidence. I mean, it's amazing to me that faith is considered to be a virtue when its very nature is absurd. I mean, to believe in spite of or without good evidence or in spite of evidence at all. And then finally, dogma, superstition and dogma, which I think are pretty self-evident about why those aren't such a great idea. Next comes complete oblivion. When we die, we are gone. I have to step carefully here because there's little cactuses all over. Woo! When we die, we're completely gone. Oh my gosh, that's hot on the feet. There's nothing left of us when we're gone. And that is, we will, the homunculus winks out like a candle going out, like the song coming to an end. My body dissolves away into its constituent parts. My bones turn to sand. And that's the end. And there, by virtue of that fact, there will be no final reunion, no afterlife where I'll meet the people who have died before or who die later. There will be no chance for reconciliation with with anyone that I left life on bad terms on, and there will be no final justice because there's no judge. At least there's no good reason to think there's any judge. Next, I'm getting near the end here. Complete oblivion. The great life adventure, give yourself the decade of your 20s to alter yourself, go as far as you possibly can with education, and then pursue whatever dreams or adventures you want to do. Go to places like this or whatever the case may be. Take a gamble on a business, do whatever you want, and then become that person that you want to be. Go after avoiding that deeper level risk. Yeah, it's a very worthwhile thing to do. I can see how people who think that there's more than this might say, well, I'll wait and have my other adventures in heaven. But it's an awfully big gamble there in my book that, you're going to, sacrifice in some ways was one life you've got for a gamble on something that has no reason to believe it's real. Finally, last two, I think the season of philosophy is a time to record what we've learned along the way. This is my season of philosophy. And the reason I call it such is when the time comes, when the words come, when the muse speaks, better write it down. You better turn the camera on because that is likely going to go away. Your mental faculties, just like my mental faculties are starting to degrade because of this heat, they're soon going to do so because of age. And my ability to get the words out just so is going to decrease. And before long, I'll be rocking away on a chair on a porch with a mind that isn't nearly as supple as it is now, which is not nearly as supple as it was 10 years ago or the 10 years before that. But I didn't have anything much to say then. Isn't that funny? So that's why it's a season. That season comes. And when that season comes, speak, talk, do it. I recommend pulling away from a lot of social media because it's kind of a distraction. Because if you're going to speak honestly, it's going to be stuff that may not relate to a lot of people. And just say it anyway. Just say it. But if you're pulled away from all that stuff, then you won't be worried by the pestering, annoying things that sometimes people say. Which is helpful sometimes to hear what people say, but for the most part, it's just noise. It's so much noise. And then finally, last one, arena and utility. Life is an arena for the adventure of life, adventure of this living, and every challenge is an exercise, opportunity for us to use the utility of our principles along the road of our objectives. And with that, friends, I am going to sign off. Just too hot. Take care. Have a great day. Amboy Crater. Don't come here if it's too hot. It's a dangerous place. Oh, and the reason that I came out here, this is the morbid reason, is that I was here 2 weeks ago. I always stop here in the summers to rest in the shade. And I was sad to learn that the day after I was here 2 weeks ago, a couple came. They walked off, and you can see the trail right there. They walked off on the trail towards the crater at 11 a.m. By 2 p.m., well, 1:30, the woman had called 911, and by 2 p.m. a helicopter had found them dead about a mile right out there. This desert is a killer. Do not tempt it. So that's, it sounds like I'm tempting it a little bit, but look, you can see there's you can see the balcony of the thing. I can see it right there. I'm safe. Just a little bit of grandstanding, maybe a little showmanship on my part. I'm in no danger whatsoever, but it is hot. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a good life.